Okay, so we've just managed to create our bootable USB drive, and perhaps the first thing you're going to want to do is to, first of all, you need to eject it from the Ubuntu, which we will actually do. I've got to log back in. Actually, didn't take my typing there. Okay, a little bit of delay there. I guess it's worthwhile you seeing this to make you see the kind of hiccups we might have. Okay, I don't know what happened there, but it let me in. So this terminal is currently in that file system. So what we will do is we will exit the terminal. We will also go up to the file system here. And remember, this is Porteus 1. We will eject the CD that the virtual CD, the ISO file image that we mounted. And we will also eject the USB. We'll eject the USB. It's telling me it's writing data to Porteus. Okay, I can now unplug Porteus, so let me kick that out. Okay, so it's unplugged from here. Now it's still physically connected to this virtual machine. So remember, it's unplugged at a software level, but what we'll do is we'll go up here and we will virtually physically unplug it here. So I click that and it makes a noise, and what I think is going to happen is it's going to appear back on. Actually, it didn't this time. Oh, that's right. It won't appear back on the Windows system because it is now formatted with a file system that Windows can't actually read. Okay, so it simply can't be mounted into Windows because the file system is ext4, which is a Linux file system. And unless you were able to install some kind of additional driver such that your Windows system could read the ext4 file system, it simply won't appear here. So it's now effectively unplugged from there. So now you can physically unplug it from here, go over to a laptop, plug in the USB drive. You'll need to hit F12 on the laptop as it is booting in order to set up a custom boot and tell it to boot from the USB. I'm assuming that you can do that. I believe that you don't need to be able to change the BIOS or anything like that. So you don't need any special kind of BIOS account in order to be able to boot from a USB device. So that's what you're going to do. But of course, I can't show you a video of that. So what I thought would be interesting would be if we could actually create another virtual machine within VirtualBox and get that virtual machine to boot from this USB. So if you imagine it's like having a virtual laptop running within your Windows system, and somehow be able to plug in a physical USB drive to your Windows host and use that to boot your virtual guest system, which will behave like a laptop. So that's what we're going to work on. And I actually found a guide and to explain what we need to do with that, I'm going to pause the video while I figure this out, because there's a Linux Windows command which I have to give you. Okay, so we need to figure out which USB disk, in terms of its disk number, is the one that we want to map through into Oracle VirtualBox so that it can be used to boot a virtual machine. So remember, a virtual machine is normally booted from a virtual disk. which is usually a file on the hard drive of the host system, in our case, the Windows desktop machine. So in order to get the number of the USB disk within Windows, we're going to have to type disk part. We actually have to put in an admin account. I actually don't have admin privileges with my regular account on this system, so I'm going to have to use another the local PC admin account. I don't know if you guys have that. Don't quite know what's happening here though. Oh, here we are. So we're in disk part. It threw up another window with disk part. Now, if we type help here, I think what we need to do is list disk. So list, I think it's disks. It's actually list disk. And it's telling me that the hard drive is disk 0 with 465 gigabytes, and it's detected a physical disk 1, but that there is no media. So disk 1 is the disk that we're interested in using. So now we'll return to the web page. It was showing using this disk management utility, but I don't seem to be able to get into that on this particular machine. If you can, then you would be able to see that, you'd also see the same thing, the disk numbering, and be able to determine that the USB drive is disk 1 or 2 or whatever it is. So the next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to need to open a command prompt as administrator. So you would have to type cmd, come here, and you would run as administrator. Now, I've already done this on one of my systems. So I've already opened a command window like this. So, okay. So let's go back here. So you open a command prompt. You're going to cd into the Oracle VirtualBox directory. And then you're going to issue a command, this command. And where we've got this number sign, you're actually going to put the 1 or whatever is the correct disk number. Now, I'm actually, I've already done this once for an 8 gigabyte file that I had. So I actually think this is probably already done for me, but I did execute this command. So the interesting thing is I did this a couple of days ago with an 8 gigabyte USB drive, and now I have this 32 in there. But what you're doing is you're creating like a dummy virtual disk file, which points to a real physical drive. And I'm guessing that that's probably still in place. Okay. So let's have a look back over here. So the command that we issued created a file called Porteus01.vmdk on the C drive. If we go back to our other, I think this is finished now. What we need to do is exit out of this disk part here. And so now we're back in this. This is a non-administrator command prompt. If we just do a dir here, this is the C drive. You can see that I have my Porteus01.vmdk file there. And you'll notice that it's actually, if you look at the size of it, it's not a full-sized disk. It's obviously just a pointer which points to a physical drive. I don't think we can look inside that, but you can see it's 638 bytes. This is not a hard drive. This is something else. So now you've got this, it's a mapping of a virtual disk to a real physical disk. And what you do is you come over. First thing we're going to do actually is we're going to shut down our Ubuntu system. It's actually not letting me do that. I'm going to have to log in and shut it down. Okay. Show details. We've got an internal error here. I guess I'm not that worried about it. Probably would like to close down some of my apps, but I don't need to do that. Let's just shut down. Okay, so we're shutting down one of our virtual machines. You don't want to be running multiple virtual machines. Yeah, I want to shut down. Okay, so we're going back over here. Now, I'll run through what we could be doing here. We're going to create a new machine. I'm going to call this Porteus 02 because I already created mine before, so I'm just going to show you how I went about this. Porteus 02. It's Linux, but it's a generic Linux. Okay, so we have to go to the top here. I'm going to say Linux. This is in Linux, they talk about your kernel version, which is like the core of the operating system. We're in a 3.x kernel, 64 bits, so we pick that, and then we go next. To simulate the laptops, usually they've got at least 4 gigs of memory. Next. We're going to use an existing virtual hard disk. Okay, and then we're going to find it. And here it is. This is our Porteus. Okay. And notice this is, saying it's 7.45 gigabytes. That leads me to believe that actually I may have to redo this for this different. Well, you know what? We're going to. So then you would create, and then you would be able to start this up. And note that its boot order is floppy, optical, and hard disk. So we actually have to change something here. If we did this, one of the things we have to change is USB. We actually need to make sure that this guy. Okay, now here's a little thing I need to tell you. The VirtualBox also potentially needs to be started with administrative privileges so that you're able to do this stuff. We want to make this, and this is telling us invalid settings here. Let's click OK. And I'm going to compare this one with the one that I actually originally created. So if we look at settings here, look at USB. Well, actually, that's interesting because, you know what? I'm kind of mistaken here. The thing is, we are booting from this from a USB, but the virtual system doesn't know it's a USB, so that really doesn't matter. So I'm going to go back to settings here, and I'm going to put that back to where it was, and I'm going to click OK. Now, I'm going to try to boot this and see what happens. And just so you understand, although it's a USB, the virtual system is going to see it as a hard disk. We've managed to map a USB on the Windows host to look like a hard disk on the guest. So if I start this, the only thing is that we did that mapping yesterday when it was only an 8 gig drive, and now this is a 32. So we'll see if this actually works. So I'm going to hit start. Okay, so it actually failed to open a session. Okay, so I have a funny feeling that what we need to do is we need to potentially rebuild this virtual VMDK because it's a different, physical drive. So we are going to click OK on that. And what we're going to do is go back to our command line, administrative command line. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, is it RM? Oh, I think it might be Dell. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back and we're going to create our file again. Okay. So we got a little issue there. I'm going to pause for a second. A possible issue is that we have changed this disk substantially from when it was first plugged in. So maybe I'm going to actually have to unplug it and plug it back in order for Windows to reassess what's on the disk. So I'm going to try that. Okay, so I unplugged it, plugged it back in, and it popped up some messages telling me that, it needed to be reformatted in order to be usable. So let's go back into here and let's try again. Okay, so you see that this time it actually successfully created the virtual disk Porteus 01. So we're going to go back in and we're going to try and start up our newly created virtual machine. Fingers crossed. Okay. Okay. It looks like there was some change and we're going to have to, let's stop this here. Let's go back in, go to settings, go to storage. So we did something that I think the thing is we needed to have created this virtual machine after we had done that mapping. So we're going to cancel. We're going to delete the machine, remove it, delete all files. We're going to do a new. We're going to go Porteus 02. Okay. We're going to go next. We're going to give it 4 gigs. We're going to use an existing drive. We're going to use Porteus. We're going to create, and we're going to start it with our fingers crossed again. So the one thing it does tell me is that, okay, so we're having some trouble here. I didn't have this trouble the other day, so pause. Now, it occurs to me that the possibility of a problem is that I'm using the same virtual disk for the previously created Porteus 1 and this new one, and maybe that's a problem. So we're going to go through this once more. I'm going to create a unique file, a virtual disk called Porteus 02 rather than Porteus 01. So we come back here. I'm going to delete this one. I'm going to create Porteus 02. That was created. I'm going to delete this, delete all files. I'm going to do a new again. To Linux. Okay. Next. Use an existing hard drive. 02. Open. Create. Start. Looking better. Okay, so here we are. Basically, we're always going to want to start it in graphics mode. And let's maximize this. So we've got our system booting. The only thing really is that it does appear that every time you plug in the USB drive, you effectively have to create the virtual machine through this process anew. Although we will try that. What we'll actually do is once this is booted, we will shut it down. We will unplug the drive, the physical drive, and then we'll plug it back in, and then we'll try and start the virtual machine up and see if it does start. Okay, so we've booted up into our virtual machine. Now Now, when it comes up in inside VirtualBox, it actually comes up. Okay, so let's try ping 10.254. Let's do 60.20. I think that probably exists. Okay, so we actually, in networking, works immediately within that virtual machine, which is good. So what we're going to do is we are going to close down the virtual machine, shut down. Okay. I'm going to, so this drive is actually in. So even though we're not doing anything with it, we still have to eject it. Okay. Now I'm going to remove the drive. And pop it back in. Okay. It made its noise, but let's see if we can boot it. In fact, let me try something here. Let me try another. Well, let's just try disk part. List disk. Okay, so it's definitely in there. So we're going to exit. I just want to make sure that physically it was there. And now we're going to try and start it up again. Okay, so that tells us that no, we have to go through this every time we plug it in. So I'm going to do this one more time. You might want to stop the video if you don't want to watch me do this, guys. So okay, I've got to go back over here. I've got to delete the file, Porteus 2. I've got to recreate the file, Porteus 2. Okay, so it was not ready. Okay, so somehow it didn't plug in properly. Let me unplug it again. Okay, so you can see that it's actually popped this up, which it didn't do just before. So if I cancel that, come back over here, issue my command again, it was created successfully. I'm going to delete this again. Remove the old files. New. I'm just going to call it P02 now. I can't bother typing all that again. Linux. Boom. 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 Okay, this is a bit weird because I thought I just created that file. And yet I don't see a file here. C Porteus 02 VMDK created successfully. And yet here I'm not seeing it. Okay, I've seen this happen a few times before where it looks like it doesn't refresh. Let me cancel out the dialog. If I go to the C drive, that's quite strange, isn't it? It's not showing it, even though it said it created it. Let's delete to. Oh, that's really weird, isn't it? Said it created it. Let's go back over here. Now it's there. Okay, whatever. So we're going to use the file, create. We're going to start. I do thank you for your patience here. This looks promising. Yeah, so we're good. So start the video.